Windows Server 2019 System Administration. Welcome back everybody. I'm Prakash Pradhan, your trainer for this entire series. So in today's series, we are going to discuss about the failover of your DFS. So in our previous video, Day 4 Part 1, we have learned how to set distributed file system server. That means the namespace. Now over here, we are going to learn how to set the failover plan. That means like an additional domain controller in our network infrastructure. It's better to have always a failover plan in our file server, because if your primary file server goes down, the client will not be able to access any of their resources from the network. So in that case, if you have a failover plan, so it's better that all the documents are safe and every client can have access their document regularly without any interruption. So over here, I'm going to show you how to install first your DFS role from the beginning, and then I'll show you how to set up the failover plan. Okay, so this is my primary domain controller where I'm going to set the role for your DFS. I believe everyone remember that DFS is under the file and storage over here. So since this server is going to do the replication as well, so I'm going to install the DFS replication as well. So now let's install this. Similarly, in the second server where I'm going to set up as a failover, we need to install at least a role for the DFS. So over there only the replication will be installed, because entire file management will be controlled by the primary domain controller. That means your main namespace server. That is our primary domain controller in our case. So over here, rather than installing both the options of your DFS, I'm going to select only one option. That is your over here only replication. Namespace we don't require over here, because the entire file management of the namespace will be controlled by your first partner. That means that's your namespace server. We often call it DFS server as well. So now let's install this. By the time it's installing, we need to make sure that in primary domain controller as well as your partner DFS failover server, you create one folder having a similar name, because when we go for the replication, it's mandatory to have a name of that file similar, otherwise you're gonna get into trouble. So that's why being a wise, so let's create one folder in our primary domain controller that is going to act as a main DFS server. Okay, now over there we're going to create one folder and we're going to share it giving a specific permission. That means let's say giving a full permission read write to everyone. So in my case, I'm going to create one folder. Okay, let's say common. Okay, and this folder I would like to share it. If you notice, after installing your DFS, the DFS root will be created over here. That means our DFS is done. Okay, now here I'm going to share one folder to everyone. Let's say I'm going to share it to everyone, giving a full permission. Okay, everyone, share it. It's being shared over here over the network and done. Okay, now if I wanted to make sure that this file is being shared over here, I'm going to hit the UNC path 1.1 if you remember. Okay, so now this one, see, common folder is shared now. Okay, now similar file or similar folder must be created in your partner server as well. Now over here, by the time it installs DFS replication rule, I'm going to create one folder having the similar permission and having the identical name. It will be easy for you. Otherwise, trust me, we are gonna get into trouble. It gives issue while doing the replication. So over here in your partner server that is going to act from your second server as a failover plan of your DFS, I'm going to create simple one folder having a identical name. So that one is common. Okay, now this folder and that previous folder of your primary domain controller where we are going to host the first namespace need to have the same permission. Okay, so over here also I'm going to set it giving the full permission. Since it's adding the role also, so that's why it's taking time. Now share it, and I'm going to share with the full permission to everyone. Add, read write, share. Okay, now let's test it whether this folder is also shared or not. Okay, done. Okay, so the IP of this server is, let's check the IP address first because I want you to see practically. So now 110. Now if I go to the main primary domain controller where I have installed the role for the namespace, I should be able to access that. Okay, see now here. Okay, now in primary domain controller, that means my main DFS namespace place, I'm going to create one file inside that folder which we want to replicate in our additional your failover, your DFS. Now over here, let's create one file. Let's take only one file, test. Let's say over here the content we can write, let's say failover test. Okay, now so now it's done. If you notice right now, this file is only in your namespace hosting PC, which we have not done so far. Okay, now it is not able to replicate in our partner server. If you have a look over here in our partner server, here the folder is there, but that is not replicated. That is our prime concern over here for this today's series, how to do your replication. Okay, now over here I'm going to go to the primary and I'm going to do the configuration, because by the time your DFS role is, I guess it's added. See now it's successfully installed. Now I'm going to configure it. In order to configure this namespace, go to the DFS management. Wait for a few seconds because it's getting heavy loaded over here. I've opened so many applications, so that's why it's taking time. In your physical server, it won't take that much long. Okay, now see here, the namespace role has been added, but there is nothing. We have not configured at all. So I'm going to create one namespace over here, and it's asking you which one is the server. That means the primary server that is going to host this namespace server. Obviously, this is your first server. Okay, that means my domain controller. So let's see now. Let's browse it, or you can write the name also. So over here, this one is a set 2, this is 2, this is DC1. Okay, now if you want to see the name of your server itself, you can go to the command prompt and you can test it yourself. Host name, see DC1 is our primary domain controller, so I'm going to search it as a server DC1. Okay, check name. Okay, now that means this DC1 is going to host the namespace server. That means entire file will be stored over here, and it will get replicated in your failover server as well. Now it's asking the name that will be used by the client to access your file. So I'm going to give it the same name. Let's say over here, let's say file server. Okay, we'll use that. File server is the name that we are going to create, that the client will be accessing using the namespace. So that's a file server. You can write any as per your need. Now over here it's giving the option, would you like to go for your what do you call domain base namespace or standalone? Of course we are going through the domain space on the domain base, I mean to say, because it will be easy for us, because it will get authenticated via domain. So that's why let's choose this first option only. Okay, standalone also it can be done, but it's better if you use this one. So go to next. Now it's showing you all the settings and created. I hope everything goes tick 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 in a green. Okay, now namespace is created. Okay, now by the time you see the namespace is created, and if I try to access anything using, let's say, biotech.co, see it has already listed namespace. There's nothing. Why? The answer is, though we have created the namespace, but nothing is mapped over here, nothing is targeted over here. So that's why our next step, I'm going to add a folder, and that folder you can give any name over here. Let's say first you need to add the target folder. Our first target folder will be the primary namespace server. See DC1. If you click show shared folder, this folder you have to click it, not the file server, this one, because file server is the name of your namespace that is shared. Okay, so select the folder that you want to get replicated to the your partner server as a DFS failover. Okay, okay. Now see, the name is here, but still, if you notice, okay, if you notice over here folder is redirected, okay, and the file is also there. Whereas if I go to my partner server, okay, my partner server, the folder is there, but the file is not replicated because we have not set the target for the replication so far. Okay, so if I go to okay, file server, see, folder redirection is there, file is here, but what about the folder that I have shared over here? Okay, let's see. And my file name was common. See, it is empty. It is empty. Why? Because the replication target is not done so far. So if you leave your server configuration over here only, replication will not be done. So our next work over here is still in a primary server. We need to create the replication over here. So for that, you select the server folder that you have hosted as a file server and right click. You can do the add a target folder, or you still have option. You go over here, add a target folder from here also. Now it's asking you the path. That means it's asking you the path of second partner server that is going to work as a failover in case if the primary name server goes down. It's simple. Browse it. See, it's showing you only DC1. You will have to browse it your second server. Okay. Now fine. Now my second server is this. So I'm going to select it. Okay. Okay. Now in second server, which folder is the one that you want to get replicated from the primary server? If you remember, in our main server over here, okay, in PDC, if I see that over here we have shared one folder inside a namespace common, and this file has to be replicated, which is to be set so far now. Okay, now let's go over here. This is the folder. So from the primary folder, it will get replicated in my partner server of a DFS failover. It's simple. Okay, so the share folder, because in second server we have shared only one folder. Okay, now I'm going to select it, and permission I don't need to set anything because entire things are already done. Okay, now it will ask you to create a replication group. It's mandatory. Without creating a replication group, the replication will not be done. Now it will give you the default name and we'll leave it as it is as per the name of our file server itself. So hope to get everything green check. Let it come. It takes a few seconds, I guess. It's collecting the folder target information. Okay, done. Now it's asking you, I told you the by default folder replication group name will be your file server itself. Okay, now after that, replication group name as it is will leave it. Okay, and replicated folder name is this. Okay, so we'll leave it as it is, which is said over here. This wizard create a replication group that contains the server that hosts the folder target. So we'll leave it as it is. Click next. See, we are having two targets. One is the DC1, second one is the DC2. That means server 2. Next. Now it's asking you which one is the primary server. If you make a mistake over here, if you select it your secondary server, second partner as a primary server, what's going to happen? Guess yourself. I guess you guess it right. The second folder is empty. No matter how many files or folders you are going to create in a main primary namespace server, that will get replicated from the server 2. That means server 2 is empty. So that's why be wise to select always DC1, because the folder target initiated is done from the DC1. That means all the files are stored in DC1 and that will get replicated into the second server. So that's why the primary server should be this. Now it's asking you the topology. What topology do you want to use? Since we're having only two PCs, that means two servers over here, in order to replicate, I can use the mesh, it's okay. And then it's asking you, what amount of bandwidth would you like to allocate for the replication of this DFS failover. So in my case, since I'm working in a LAN, I can give the full, but otherwise if you are just using your public IP and you do not want your network traffic to be generated heavily all the time, replicating your file from the DFS, in that case you have an option to choose any amount of bandwidth that you want to use it for this purpose. But right now I'm using my full bandwidth. Next, so it's giving you the summary. Okay, replication server 1 2, replicated name first, and this is okay. Great, entire thing is done. Okay, fantastic. Close. Okay, it's saying replication will not begin until the configuration picked up by the members of the replication group. Okay, the amount of time this takes depends on the Active Directory domain, services, replication, latency, as well as the polling interval. It's okay. We'll wait. Now over here, if you see the folder target, we're having two targets. Okay, the name we give first. Over here, two folder targets are there. You can open also in Explore. Here, remember, test. Open this one. This is empty. Why? Server 2. The replication is not done so far. Okay, now replication will take place. It takes time. By the time we'll go to the partner server and let's see what are the changes done over here. Okay, partner server, it is still empty. That means it's not done. Installation is done. Okay, it is still empty. Now let's go to DFS of the partner server. Okay, the namespace, it's not listed. Right click and add namespace to display. Biotech is the domain name. The name is biotech.co file server. Okay, fine. Now see, first the target. See now, target folder, two destinations, it's listed over here. Okay, right click, open in Explore. You can check that this is in a first server, TC1, and if you want to check it the second one also, open in Explore. It is still empty. That means it takes time to replicate. Okay, just wait for a few seconds, or it may be a few minutes. It might take time. Rather than waiting over here in a namespace server itself, okay, what we can do, we can go to our second partner of our namespace. In this folder the mapping was done. Wait for a few seconds, a few minutes, the replication will be done. See, these are the two targets that we have done, so that if your primary namespace server goes down, client can access from the second server, and they won't be able to know only from where they were accessing their files actually. So it saves the time also, rather than going to another server, changing the IP address. Takes time. Wait for a few minutes. See, it's done. Replication. Replicated folder, first two items. See here, in two different locations. It means to say that. It will take few minutes over here in our case. it's coming from the source. Okay, but over here we'd like to see that it's been copied here as well. Here we need to replicate that file from your primary namespace server to the partner server over here. That is the main concept of our DFS failover. Congratulations, the replication is done in time. So if you see over here now, the content that was written in the first DFS is over here. So this way actually your DFS failover works. So if you want to make sure again that the replication is done properly or not, let's go to the first primary, your DFS namespace, that is our primary domain controller, and I'm gonna go over here in my main folder, okay, here. So I'm gonna write another thing over here and let's see how long it takes. This is the second one, second test, let's see. Okay, now this one should get replicated in your partner DFS server as well. This is my partner DFS server. Okay, now let's go to the folder where the common folder was shared. It's not replicated so far, so let's see how long it takes for the second part. Obviously it's gonna take few seconds, or sometime it might take a few minutes as well. It depends upon you know, your network speed or your hardware configuration. Okay, Active Directory configuration setting, it takes upon that also, but it is done. So the purpose of doing this DFS failover, this DFS failover, I mean to say, it's been successfully achieved over here. So I hope you all have learned something or something was added to your knowledge. Keep on refreshing, it will be, you know, copied after few seconds in our case. So I hope this today's session for this DFS failover, step by step, whatever I have shown, you understood clearly. And please do not forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.